Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to my channel. Today I will be showing you how to make this cardigan. Now we will have sizes from 0 to 6 and 6 to 12 months. These will be general sizes, and if you need to make them on the smaller side of that age or on the bigger one, I will explain you how to do that. All there will be is, you're gonna have to adjust a little bit the length of the cardigan and the length of the sleeve. Other than that, it will all be the same. So this is a size 0 to 6 months, and this is on the smaller side. So this would be closer to 0 to 3 technically. And this is the same size, 0 to 6 months, but a little bit bigger. So the sleeves are a little bit longer and the cardigan is longer itself. So like this, so color pink and color cream. Now these two are the sizes 6 to 12 months, and this one would be on the smaller side, closer to 6 to 9 months, like for the sleeves and for the length of the cardigan, and this one is on the bigger side, closer to 9 to 12 months of age. So we will be making fans. The main pattern is the fans, and then we have the single crochet ribbing at the bottom, at the sleeves, and at the neckline. Now this is not the easiest pattern in the world to make. It will take time. I will get you through all of those steps. You just need to listen carefully. I will talk about everything, but probably personally for me, the most difficult part is right here, the neckline, because we need to do a little bit of decreasing. But again, if you take your time and just listen and see what I do, I'm sure you will be absolutely fine with this pattern. Okay, so this is top to bottom. We start right here and we increase at these corners, just something to remember, and it will get wider, longer, until we get to the measurements. Again, I'm going to be using measurements rather than stitch count. So if you are new to my channel, that will be something new for you to learn. Okay, so if you got interested into making this cardigan, let's go and see what we are going to need to make it. So this is what we are going to need for this project. Now we're going to need a measuring tape in centimeters, because my sizes are here written down in centimeters, and we will be doing two general sizes, and then we will be able to adjust them if you want them a little bit smaller or a little bit bigger. Now, as I will be making two of the cardigans, one for each size, I have two sets of everything. Okay, so this is going to be the smaller size and this is going to be the bigger size. Okay, so a measuring tape, very important. Then scissors, buttons. Now I have two different buttons. These are bigger and round, and these are smaller in a shape of a bow. Choose whatever you like. We will be able to adjust the buttonhole size to the needs of your button or to the size of your buttons. So I have 5 for the bigger size and 4 for the smaller one, but you can actually make as many buttonholes as you like. Okay, then we're going to need 4 stitch markers. I have 2 sets because I'm making 2 sizes. Then we're going to need a needle to hide the tails and 2 hooks. So the main one that we need is a 4mm hook for the main part of the cardigan, and then we need a smaller hook. So I have a 3mm hook, and this one I'm only going to use right here to make it nice and snug around the neck, and it does make a difference. So a smaller hook if you have one. Next is the yarn. So use whatever brand yarn you have. As long as it is a lightweight yarn or DK weight yarn, you will be fine. So the yarns will be slightly different, but that is why we have the measurement, so you can adjust as you go, and it's not necessarily that you, let's say, be on the same row as me just because your yarn might be a little bit thicker or a little bit thinner than mine. But I will show you all the way how you can adjust as you go. Okay, so yarn, how much yarn we're going to need? We're going to need approximately 150 grams. You will need a little bit less For the smaller sizes, for the 0 to 6, 100 grams might be enough. Again, it really depends on the yarn that you have, okay? So I have 150 grams in this beautiful light green color. And then I have 150 for the bigger size in this pale pink. And this is, I'm using a 100% acrylic lightweight yarn. There is approximately 150 meters or 164 yards in 50 grams, okay? Now, if you're gonna get a 100-gram skein, you should have approximately 300 meters or double the yards. I'm not very good with yards. Okay, so anything similar to the yarn that I have will be absolutely fine. Like I said, you will be able to adjust it as you go because we're going to use measurements rather than count the stitches all the way. Okay, now when you have everything ready, let's go on and get started. Okay, so to start, grab your yarn, your 4mm hook, your stitch markers, and make a slip knot. Now the beginning is pretty much the same for the 0 to 6 and 6 to 12 months. It's just the difference is in one loop. So for the 0 to 6 you are gonna make 18 loops, and for the 6 to 12 you're gonna make 19. Now I will generally be making the 6 to 12 months size, and I will just bring in the cardigan, the smaller one, in key moments when there will be differences between those two sizes. Okay, so to start the loop, it's very, very simple. We're gonna chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and then we're gonna make a double crochet into the very bottom chain. Okay, so into the 3rd chain from the hook. Just go in there and make a double crochet, and here we have a loop. Now we're gonna make 3 chains, 1, 2, and 3. Yarn over and into the bottom chain or the 3rd chain from the hook, 1, 2, and 3. You're gonna make a double crochet. Again, chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and double crochet into the bottom chain. 1, 2, and 3, and a double crochet. And now you can see it is very easy to see how many loops you have. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you need to keep going until you have 18 for the smaller size or 19 for the bigger one. So okay, so I have made my 19 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19 loops. Now again, this is for the bigger size. If you're making smaller, you should have 18. Now technically, all the way until we need to connect our yoke, all the rows are exactly the same for the both sizes. So to start row number 1, we're going to chain 2. And we will be crocheting under that double crochet, like right into the middle of that loop. And we will be making 2 half double crochets. 1, 2. We're going to chain 2, 1 and 2, and again 2 half double crochets. Into the next one, 2 half double crochets. Chain 2 and 2 half double crochets, and keep going like this until you finish all of your loops, and each loop should have this kind of fan in it. Okay, so keep going. I'll see you at the end of this row. So I've finished the first row. I only need to put a half double crochet into the very last chain. So right where your little knot is, where you have started, just put a half double crochet there, like this. Okay, so now we need to mark where our corners are going to be, and I have a little drawing here which I will show you what to do in a few seconds. Grab your stitch markers. And now, oh, I broke my stitch marker. Okay. Okay, so what you want to do is, you see the big little loops that I have here, so you're gonna skip these. Okay, so there's 2 on each side, so you're gonna skip 2, and into the third, the chain 2 space, into the third fan, you're gonna put in a stitch marker. Then you're going to skip 3 loops, 1, 2, and 3, excuse me, chain 2 spaces. So 1, 2, and 3 into the fourth one. You're going to put in a stitch marker. So you have 3 fans in between. Now the back is where it's different for the 2, okay? So for the bigger size, you need to skip 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fans, and for the smaller one, you need to skip 4. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, because I'm making the bigger size. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and a stitch marker into the next one. And then the last one, you will skip 3 fans, 1, 2, and 3 into the fourth one. You will put in a stitch marker, and then you should have 2 fans left. And this, where the stitch markers are, this is where we're going to do our increases for the corner. So this is going to be to look like this. All the rest, chain 2 spaces on top of each fan, are going to be exactly the same as we have done. 2 half double crochets, chain 2, 2 half double crochets. Only these parts will change in pretty much each row. Okay, so at this moment we are on this row right here. Okay, so we have, where the stitch marker is, we have 2 half double crochets, chain 2, and 2 half double crochets. So this is the one that we are going to make now. We are going to start each row by chaining 2, 1 and 2, and turn. Now, like I said, everything in between the stitch markers are gonna have a fan in the chain 2 space. So half double crochet 1, half double crochet 2, chain 2, and 2 more half double crochets. Then 1 more, two half double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more half double crochets. Okay, so the next corner, so this one right here. Okay, so we're gonna have 2 half double crochets, chain 2, 2 half double crochets, chain 2, and 2 half double crochets. We are starting to increase that yoke. Take the stitch marker out, make 2 half double crochets, 1 and 2, chain 2, 2 half double crochets, 1 and 2, chain 2, and 2 more half double crochets, 1 and 2. Now you want to put your stitch marker in between the 2 very middle half double crochets. Okay, so we have 2 half double crochets, chain 2, and the next 2 are the very middle of that corner. So right in between them, we need to split that into 2. Okay, so we have chain 2 on one side and chain 2 on the other side. Then, like I said, anything in between the stitch markers is just normal fan. So 2 half double crochets, chain 2, and 2 half double crochets. So keep going until you get to your next stitch marker. Okay, again, stitch marker, we're going to do exactly the same in each corner of this row. So I'm going to take this out, 2 half double crochets, chain 2, 2 half double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more half double crochets. And stitch marker in between the very 2 middle half double crochets again, so we split it into 2 and keep going. Do the same for the rest of the row. Just normal fans until you get to the stitch marker. When you get here, you do the same thing, and again until you finish this row. Okay, so finishing row number 2, after you make the very last fan, you're gonna find the chain 2 in the very beginning. It might be a little tightened from the previous row. You're gonna put a half double crochet on the top of it, like this. Okay, so there's chain 1 and chain 2 into the top chain, so a half double crochet. And this is how each of our rows is going to finish, with a half double crochet. We start with chaining 2 and finish with half double crochet. Okay, so row number 3, this is the corners that we are going to have. Okay, again, chain 2 to start and turn, and start your fans. Okay, so now when we get to the stitch marker right here, we still have this chain 2 space. Okay, so we have 2 fans and a chain 2 space. Now we're gonna put a full fan into that chain 2 space. So 2 half double crochets, chain 2 and 2 half double crochets. So this is what we have done right now. Now we need to put 1 chain in between them. So after that, you're gonna chain 1. I'm gonna take the stitch marker out, and you're gonna put a full fan into the next one. Now you want to put that stitch marker into that chain 1 space in between them, because first we have made this, they were kind of connected, the 2 fans, and now we have completely split them and have a chain 1 in between them. So we have separated them into 2, like this. Okay, and then continue on as normal until you get to your next stitch marker. And again, right here, we need to separate them. So before the stitch marker, a full fan. And then we chain 1 to do the separation. Take the stitch marker out, and a full fan right after that. Like this, stitch marker in the chain 1 in between the 2 fans. They are split now. And then continue on as usual for the rest of this row. And of course, you're going to do the same thing in all of the corners. Okay, so fan, chain 1 to split them, and a fan. Normal, fan, chain 1 to split, fan, and I will see you at the end right here. And we finish this row with a half double crochet in the top of the chain 2. So chain 1 and 2, and just a half double crochet. Now you're going to chain 2 and turn, and normal fans until you get to that stitch marker in the chain 1 space. Okay, just keep going. I'll see you right here. Okay, so right, I am at the stitch marker where the chain 1 is, and we are on this row. So the next 2 rows, the corners are going to be exactly the same. Okay, so we are just gonna have a fan on top of a fan. Now, where the chain 1 space is, we're gonna take it out and make a fan in there. And mark the chain 2 in that fan. And then, as usual, your normal fans. So you can relax in between the stitch markers. Oh, I have the stitch marker in the wrong place. It should be in between those two. Sorry about that. Okay, stitch marker out and a full fan in that chain 1 space. And mark that chain 2 and then continue as normal, and you will have an extra fan exactly in the place where your stitch markers are. So continue on, finish this row, and we will start the next one together. Okay, so finishing this row, again the last stitch is a half double crochet like this, chain 2, and start the next row. So the next row is very simple. So we have 2 of the same corners in a row. So what we do is we just make a fan where the stitch marker is. Now if you think you might be getting confused right here with which row is which corner is in which row, what you can do is just do a little drawing like this. Okay, so you can take a screenshot if it's easier for you. Okay, so this was the corner in our row 1, this was row 2, row 3, this one is row 4, so it will be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on. I don't think we need that many rows, but just in case, so they will be the same in these rows. Okay, so we just finished row number 4, so row number 5 is going to look like this. Okay, so chain 2 and keep going until you get to that stitch marker. And like I said, where the stitch marker is, 2 half double crochets, chain 2, 2 half double crochets, stitch marker into the chain 2. So you can see we have the exact same 2 corners in a row, and then just continue with your fan. So this is a really easy row, and then you just start repeating what we have done before. So finish this row and we will start the next one together, which will probably be the last one that I will show. If you will need to look at them again, you can just go back in the tutorial or just try to remember them, which would probably be the best thing. Okay, so just finished row number 5. Next is row number 6, and like I said, this is the last time. I will just remind you how to start the split right here. Okay, so we chain 2 and then as usual your fans until you get to your stitch marker. And where your stitch marker is, it's 2 half double crochets, chain 2, 2 half double crochets, chain 2 and 2 half double crochets, and put your stitch marker in between the 2 middle half double crochets, because we're gonna have to split these fans up in the next row. And as you can see, your yoke should have this sort of square or kind of round, maybe even shape. Okay, so this is how my one looks like, and we need to keep making this until we get onto our chest measurement. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to measure. So this is the split in the front, the back, stitch marker to stitch marker, and we want it to be approximately 24 or more centimeters in between, or 26 and more. At this moment, so stitch marker to stitch marker, don't pull on it, just lay down flat. Stitch marker to stitch marker, I'm at 22 centimeters, so I need it to be another 4 centimeters longer, so I will just keep going with these corners, and it will keep getting longer here and wider at the back. Okay, so keep going. I still need to start my smaller size, and then I will come back and I will show you the measurement and how we are going to connect those yokes. Okay, so at this point I have finished both of my yokes and I'm ready to connect. Now, first of all, what you want to make sure before connecting, that you are at or a little bit over the chest measurement. We are going to measure the 2 stitch markers that are marking the back of our cardigan. So stitch marker to stitch marker. So this is the smaller size. It should be approximately 24 centimeters or a little bit more. Stitch marker to stitch marker. Try not to pull on them. So as you can see, I am exactly at 24 centimeters. So this is absolutely perfect. It can be a little bit more, don't worry. It's just, it's a big stitch. It's very, very difficult to get it exactly where it needs to be. Okay, so don't worry if it's a little bit over. And then the other one is the bigger one that I'm making. So it's approximately 26 centimeters, stitch marker to stitch marker. And I am at 27, so I'm a little bit over, absolutely no problem. Again, it's the stitch, it is very, very difficult to get it on the exact number that we need. Absolutely fine. So once you have the chest measurement, again, remember you're measuring at the back, we are now going to connect. Now, there's going to be 2 different ways of connecting. They are very similar, and I'm going to show you both of them just so nobody gets confused. So if you're on, if you have in the corners one of these 2 rows, so one of these 2, so double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, I have it on the bigger size, you will be connecting when I'm connecting the pink one. Now, if you have any of the other 2 rows where we have increased, okay, you will be connecting the same way I'm doing on the green one. Again, it doesn't mean that if I have finished my smaller one on, which row did I finish it on? I finished it on this row right here in the corner. It doesn't mean that your smaller size will be on the same row. It depends on the hand, it depends on the yarn. You might be on this row or on this row. Doesn't matter, you just adapt as we go. Okay, so first of all, we are going to connect, let's see, the green one. Okay, so if you have connected on any of these 2 rows in the corner, so I have the 2 full split fans in the corner there, this is what you're going to do, or the other one underneath. Okay, so it's exactly the same. You start your normal way, chain 2, and make as many fans as you can. Then when you get to the stitch marker, I have one more fan right here. I'm just gonna make it a normal fan, have 2 half double crochets, chain 2, and 2 half double crochets. Now you want to make a half double crochet exactly where your stitch marker is. So I am at the chain 1. You might have to make it in between the 2 half double crochets if you are in the row beneath, okay? But it's technically, it's exactly the same spot. You just make it where your stitch marker is. So half double crochet. Now you're going to chain 1. You're going to skip all this because this is the sleeve. And exactly where your stitch marker is, I have it in the wrong place again. It should be in the chain 1 space. Make a half double crochet and then continue on with your fans. As normal. All the way to the back, all the way until you finish the back and you're at the other stitch marker. Okay, so I'm getting to the next stitch marker, my last fan. So half double crochet where your stitch marker is. Chain 1, find your next stitch marker, half double crochet where the stitch marker is, and then continue on to finish the row. So it is quite simple, and we have our yoke connected. Connected. So as you can see, now it's going to start to look a bit more like a cardigan. Okay, so this is the way you connect if you're on these 2 rows. Now I'm going to show you if you're on any of the other 2 rows. Okay. So again, you start that row of connection in the exact same way, chain 2, and make all the fans into each of the chain 2 spaces, okay? And then when you get right here where your stitch marker is, you're going to make 2 half double crochets in that chain space where your stitch marker is. So 1 and 2. Now you're going to chain 1. You're going to skip the sleeve, and where your next stitch marker is, again make 2 half double crochets and continue on after that with normal fans until you get to the next stitch marker. So all the back, I'll see you right here. Okay, so the next stitch marker, again 2 half double crochets, 1 and 2, chain 1, skip the sleeve, and make 2 half double crochets on the other side where the stitch marker is. 1 and 2. And continue to finish the row as normal. And finish with a half double crochet. Again, our rows are gonna start and finish the exact same way like we have done before this. The only thing is we don't have corners anymore, so we will not need this. Okay, so this is just now going to be your normal fans all the way down to the ribbing. Okay, so start your next row, and I just want to show you what we are going to do with that chain 1 that we have underneath each armhole. So keep going until you get right here. Okay, so this place right here is the same for either connection that we have made, okay? So you get to that chain 1 space, making the fans for as far as you can, okay? So there's no more chain 2 spaces for me. This is the last one. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna make right here where your chain 1 was, it looks like you have 2 stitches because this stitch is from the half double crochet. But we are gonna use this so that there is a smaller hole. So what you want to do is put 2 half double crochets into the first, which is the chain 1. Now you're going to chain 2, and now you're going to put 2 more half double crochets into the next stitch, which is technically the half double crochet, but it's directly underneath the armhole, so we'll just use it to make a fan there. Okay, so we make a fan directly underneath it, and then you continue on as normal with your fans. And like I have mentioned, so if you look right here, so you can see the fans very, very well. You just make one on top of each the fan, and then when you get here, again exactly the same, 2 half double crochets, chain 2, and 2 half double crochets right there, and then just continue on. So once you connect, it is all the same sort of pattern for everyone. Okay, so finish this row, start the next one, and it's technically nothing very, very difficult, but I will come back to show you just how it should look like. I forgot to say that the other armhole where you have done should be exactly the same as the one you have done before, right here. 2 half double crochets, chain 2, and 2 half double crochets. And then keep going. Okay, so now you have all the fans everywhere, and the pattern gets really, really easy. It's the same all the way down to the ribbing. Okay, just a fan on top of a fan. Nothing special, it will go quite quickly. Like this. Okay, so now you are your cardigan is full of fans everywhere. Okay, no more corners, nothing, just straight down to get to the length that you need to. Okay, so speaking about the length now. Okay, so for example, I'm gonna show you this. I think this is a smaller one. Okay, so we are approximately right here somewhere, so we need to keep going until we have approximately, you see, approximately 4 centimeters left to the length that we want our cardigan to be, okay? Because there's going to be a single crochet row plus the vertical ribbing, okay? So you want to leave approximately 4 centimeters to that. Now you will be able to adjust the length of the vertical ribbing right here. If you need it longer, you will have to add chains and get it longer. If you need it shorter, you can just have less chains than me. Again, I will talk about this when we get there, but just have in mind that approximately 4 centimeters at the bottom we need to leave for the ribbing. Now, let's see the full length. So this is the length that I have right here, okay? 0 to 6 months, 27 to 29 centimeters in length. That is from the top of the shoulder all the way down to here. Okay, so let me see how long is this one. Okay, so this one is 27 centimeters. So it could be here to approximately here. Approximately this length right here. Okay, so 27, 28, 29. It will be absolutely fine. Now, if you feel that you want your cardigan to be a little closer, let's say to 3 months, on the smaller side, you know, 0 to 3 months, then what you want to do is all the length of the sleeve and the length of the cardigan, you want to keep it to the smaller side, okay? So approximately to 27, even maybe a little bit shorter, okay? If you want it to be full 0 to 6 months, it should be on the bigger side, so 28, 29 centimeters in length. The same for 6 to 12 months. If you want it to be closer to 6 to 9 months, keep it at 30, 31 centimeter. If you want it closer to 12 months, keep it to 31, 32 centimeters on the longer side. Okay, so we talked about the full length, right? So this is right here. Now, here it is where you decide if you're going to make it a little bit shorter or a little bit longer, okay? This is going to be the green one for me, for the smaller size, and I'm going to make it on the smaller side, so approximately 27 centimeters in length. Now, like I said, the last approximately 4 centimeters will be ribbing. So I minus 4 centimeters from the length that my full cardigan needs to be. So 27 minus 4 will be 23 centimeters. That means that I will keep going with the fans until from the top of the shoulder down I'm at 23 centimeters, and then I will just finish the last 4 in ribbing to get to 27. Does that make sense? Just whatever length you decide to be doing, so a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, minus 4 centimeters from that, because we need to leave that end for the ribbing. Okay? So, and it's the same for the bigger size, exactly the same. So for now, keep going. I will see you when we have the length done. Okay, and so I have finished the length until the ribbing on both of my cardigans. I have made a sleeve, but that is in a few minutes. Okay, first of all, okay, so again, the length. I'm making both sizes on the smaller side. So 27 minus 4 is approximately 23 centimeters, and 30 minus 4 is approximately 24 centimeters in length. So this one, the smaller one, should be about 23 centimeters, so just there. And the bigger one, approximately 26. Top of the shoulder down, it is just a little bit over. Absolutely perfect. Okay, so to get ready for the ribbing, it is exactly the same for any of the sizes. So wherever you have finished, it doesn't matter which side you are on the cardigan, you are going to chain 2 and turn. Now we will be making 2 single crochets underneath or in between each fan, and 1 single crochet in the chain 2 space. So to start, right here we make a single crochet, then a single crochet into the chain 2, and then 2 single crochets in between the 2 fans. Okay, so I'm going to make one right here and another one right here, and then again 1 in the top of the fan, and then 2 in between. It doesn't technically matter which stitches you use, just as long as there are 2 single crochets, and 1 in the top, 2 in between, 1 and 2, and 1 in the top, 1, 2 in between, 1, 2, and 1 in the top of the fan. And just keep going like that all the way to the other side right here. Okay, so finishing right here, so I have a single crochet in the top of the last fan, then I'm going to make 1 single crochet at the bottom of it, and a half double crochet into the chain 2 to finish, just so we have a nice and straight edge like that. Okay, so the next part is the ribbing. Okay, so we are gonna do vertical lines joining as we go to the bottom right here. Okay, so take your time and just watch for a second. So we're going to chain 6 now. At the end of the day, you can change the number of chains, okay? So if you want or you need a little bit smaller ribbing, you just make less chains. If you need it longer, just make more chains, okay? So we're gonna make 6 chains, but we're going to have 5 single crochets. So we kind of lose 1 chain in the process. Okay, so chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now we're going to skip the first chain, and into the second chain we're going to start single crochet. So this is 1 into the next one, 2, 3, 4, and the last one is 5. Now we're going to turn. We need to connect this to the bottom of the cardigan. So find the next stitch. So this is the next stitch, and slip stitch. So this is slip stitch 1 and slip stitch into the next stitch as well. So 2 slip stitches. Okay, now we're going to make single crochets into the back loop, but we need to skip these 2 slip stitches. Okay, so you skip these 2 and start in the back loop of the first stitch. So we're gonna turn around, put your yarn in front, make sure that you skip that 1, 2. So this is my first stitch into the back loop, just like that. I'm just catching that back thread of that stitch and single crochet. So this is 1 into the back loop, 2 back loop, 3 back loop, 4 and back loop, 5. Chain 1 and turn. Skip that chain 1 into the back loop of the first stitch, 1 single crochet, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now make sure you don't slip stitch into the stitch that you already used. So this is used. Slip stitch into the next stitch and 1 more into the next one. Turn, yarn in front of your work. Make sure you skip those 2 slip stitches. So 1, 2. This is my first stitch, and into the back loop, single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You should always have the same number of single crochets. Chain 1 and turn, skip that chain 1 into the back loop of your next stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 2 slip stitches. So this is the next stitch. This is slip stitch 1, and the next stitch slip stitch 2. Turn, skip those 2 slip stitches into the back loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Chain 1 and turn, skip that chain 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 2 slip stitches, 1 and 2, and so on all the way around until you get to that other side. Okay, and so I'm finishing, and I would just want to show you how to finish the ribbing. So when you're at the very end and you need to do the last connection, you will either have 2 stitches. So I have 1 stitch right here and the chain 2, so that counts as 2 stitches, or you might only have 1 stitch left. So this is the chain 2 that I need to still use. Okay, so if you have 2 stitches left, you are just going to make the 2 slip stitches. This is 1, and into the chain 2 that is in the very beginning, and then you are just going to go up those stitches. So skip the 2 slip stitches, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and you're going to finish at the top, or whichever way you look at it, at the end right here. Okay, so you chain 1 and cut off your yarn, leave a little tail and pull that out. Now if you only have one stitch left, or the chain 2, so I'm coming down right here and I only have this stitch left, this is what you are going to do, is you're just going to slip stitch into the chain 2, chain 1, and cut your yarn. You will finish right here. It doesn't really make a difference at all. It's just using up all the stitches that we have. And you pull that out. And you should have this sort of kind of shape, like a little barrel. See? Like this. Okay, so the next step is the sleeves. Now I have one sleeve on each cardigan made. They are very, very similar. It's just the very beginning that is hard. We just need to figure out which way we need to start, and it's slightly different right here. Okay, first of all, you need to pick which side of the cardigan you like better. They are very, very similar. Just pick one, whichever one you prefer. Okay, so I already picked. I already have one sleeve. Okay, so let's say you picked. Now the next thing is we are going to quickly check the yoke length, because this might affect the length of your sleeve. Now because we have not measured this, because the chest measurement was more important, because it's a big stitch, it takes up a lot of space, this might be too long, which will affect the length of your sleeve. So what you want to do, grab your measuring tape, and we will give it a quick measure. Okay, so again, if you're making on the smaller side, you look at the yoke at the smaller side of the yoke, or if you're making it bigger, look at the bigger one. Okay, so I'm making both smaller ones, so I will be checking for 11.5 centimeters on the bigger side, on the bigger cardigan, and for 10.5 on the smaller one. Let's start with the smaller one. So this is right here. So you want to measure from here down to where the armhole is, right here. And this is exactly on point, 10.5 centimeters. It's not too long, so I'm gonna have the normal sleeve. Okay, now this one right here should be approximately 11.5, because I'm making it closer to 6 months. Okay, so this is where it ends, and it is approximately 12.5 centimeters, should be 11.5. So I'm already 1 centimeter too long than it should be. Now because we measure the sleeve from this point right here, okay, so we measure this. Because this is already too long for me in 1 centimeter, I can make the sleeve 1 centimeter shorter than it should be. 1 centimeter is not a whole lot, but it can make a difference. Look at it like this. It's going to be very close, similar length to the cardigan length. It's going to be a little bit shorter than the cardigan itself. If you don't understand all this, don't worry, just make the sleeve the length that you want, that it's written down here. Completely up to you. But I find it quite... I don't know how to say it. I do prefer shorter sleeves if they don't need to be longer than that. So the length of the sleeve, okay, so 15, 16. Again, if you're making it smaller, keep it closer to 15. If you're bigger, to 16, and 17.5 and 18.5 centimeters. So this one should be approximately 17.5. I am centimeter too long right here, so I can take that centimeter off the length. So approximately 16.5, maybe 17 centimeters. Okay. Okay, so let's start. Let's start with, let's say this one. Okay, so this is if you finished your yoke on any of these 2 rows. So if you had these 2 rows, okay? I hope you remember what you had right here, because they are slightly different. Very, very little, but different. Make a slip knot. Now, first of all, you need to figure out which way you need to go around. So we will be making our sleeves in rounds, but we will be changing the direction all the time. So we'll go here and then back, so we can keep the same look on the sleeve as well as on the cardigan itself, okay? So if you look right here, this is the wrong side of half double crochets, okay? It has this sort of, it looks like a full stitch right here. It has that loop right here, okay? And if your last row looks a bit more like this, it looks much more even, and it looks like there's kind of not a stitch, I don't know how to call this, a thread running to the side instead of like this. So you see the difference, okay? So this is the wrong side of half double crochets, and you need to start right here, and your first row is exactly the same as I'm going to do. It's just you're going to go from this side. You're gonna be going from the inside of the sleeve and then the other way around. Now if your row looks like this, the good row, this is the good side of half double crochet, you're gonna start here and go on the outside and then turn around, okay? If it's very difficult for you to say which is which, I would just say start your row, and you will see if those two rows, this one and the next one, look exactly the same. You will notice, and then you can just frog it and go the other way around. Okay, so for the bigger size, or the ones that have finished in any of these two rows, this is what we're going to do. So you want to start at the very bottom, okay? So this was the chain 1, and this is the fan that we have added to it. So go right in between that, and you are going to chain 2, 1 and 2. Oh, I got the tail instead of the thread. Okay, so chain 2. Now whichever way you need to go, I need to go on the outside right here to this side, because this is the wrong side of my half double crochet, so I need to go around this way. Now what we want to do, you see where the stitch marker is, we want to make 3 half double crochets, 1, 2 and 3 up here, okay? And then we will have our first fan. It's the same on the other side. If you're going on the inside, you just want to make 3 double crochets until, well, before this fan, okay? Somewhere right here. So let's say this is 1 double crochet, and this is 2nd double crochet. I'll take that out, and this is my 3rd double crochet. So these are just double crochets, not fans. And then you start your fans as normal. 2 half double crochets, chain 2, and 2 half double crochets. And then the next one, 2 half double crochets, chain 2, and 2 half double crochets. So you do this now until you finish your last fan that you have on the sleeve. Okay, so I have finished my last fan, and now I need to make 3 double crochets right here. I'm going to take this out. I'm going to keep this. So 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, and my 3rd double crochet. Now this is technically just so that there is no hole underneath right here, okay? Then you're gonna find the chain 2 that you made to start the row. You're gonna go under it and just slip stitch. Now chain 2 and turn, whichever way you need to go, it doesn't matter, it's the same, okay? Now we're gonna make a little bit of decrease, so this means that we're just gonna skip that the very first double crochet. So we're gonna lose this, and we're gonna go in between the next 2 and make 2 double crochets. So right in between them, 1 double crochet and 2 double crochets. This is just going to look a bit more like fans, but it's only 2 instead of 4, okay? And it's double crochets and not half double crochets, because we need these stitches to be a little bit longer. Okay, and then it's as normal. your fans. 2 half double crochets, chain 2, and 2 half double crochets. Now we want to remember which row we have started on, so grab a stitch marker and put it in the very first row that you have made when you started the sleeve. So I'm just going to put it like this into the 2 half double crochets that I have, just to remember, so it's easier to count. And then you continue on with your fans until you get to your 3 double crochets that you have right here. Okay, so made my last fan, and now I have these 3 double crochets left, 1, 2, and 3. And again, I'm going to do a decrease. I'm just going to completely lose this double crochet, and I'm going to go in between the first 2, 1 and 2, right in between them, and make 2 double crochets, 1 and 2. And I'm going to slip stitch under the chain 2. Chain 2 to start the next row, and turn. And now just remember, this is what you're going to do for the rest of the sleeve. So you have these 2 double crochets, and you will always go in between them and make 2 double crochets. So it sort of looks like a V-stitch, and it's sort of looks close to the fan, so it's not very noticeable. And then just continue on with your fans until you finish the row, and at the end of each row, when you get here, again you have 2 double crochets. You're going to make 2 more double crochets right in between them, slip stitch under the chain 2, and start the next row. So then you just keep repeating this, okay? Now I can just show you on the other sleeve that I have, so you can see this is the chain 2, and this is the V-stitch that I had all the way down to the very end. Okay, so as you can see, it's very well, you can't really tell so much. Now next, if you have finished your yoke on any of these 2 rows, okay, so it's exactly the same, just connect your yarn at the bottom of the sleeve. Make sure you know which way you are going. So this one is the good side of the half double crochets is facing like this. So this time I need to start on the inside of the sleeve. You're going to connect at the very bottom, chain 2. It's very, very similar to the other one. It's just that we are going to have 1 double crochet right here and then our fan. So the sleeve is a little bit smaller. So I'm gonna make a double crochet into that half double crochet right here underneath that stitch marker. So, and it should be a double crochet instead of a half double crochet. Then I'm gonna take that out. I'm gonna go right into the fan and start making the fans. And keep going until you run out of those fans. Okay, so this is my last one, and I'm going to meet you right. Okay, so I have just made the very last fan, and I'm going to take this out. This is a stitch marker, and I'm just going to make 1 double crochet in this space, so just maybe in the very middle right here. 1 double crochet and connect under the chain 2, and this is all there is. Chain 2 and turn. Now because we only have 1 double crochet on each side of the chain 2, we will make a double crochet on top right here. Okay, so we excuse me, we're not able to make a V-stitch because we only have 1 double crochet, so we'll just keep that all the way to the end of the sleeve. I'm gonna go right on top of it and make a double crochet, and then half double crochet fans. Again, our double crochets are a little bit taller than the half double crochets that we make in the fan, but we need to make up a little bit of that length so that the bottom of the sleeve is not too low down than the sleeve itself. Okay, so continue on with your fans. and at the end again I still have a double crochet, so I make a double crochet right on top of it, and I slip stitch under the chain 2, and turn, and again start with that double crochet, and then fans. So this is all there is to the sleeve. Now we need to make it long enough for us to start our ribbing at the end. You can see I have this double crochet in the beginning of each row and double crochet at the end of each row, running all the way to the very end of the sleeve. Now let's talk about the length of the sleeve itself. Okay, so how long do we need to keep this until we start the ribbing? So for the sleeve, I wanted the ribbing to be a little bit shorter than for the bottom. Okay, I had 5 single crochets right here. I'm gonna keep it 4 at the end of the sleeves. Again, now you might need to do it a little bit longer if you need to. Okay, it really depends on the length right here, or a little bit shorter. You can even end up with 3 single crochets. It's not a big problem, but I just kind of prefer this 4. So the 4 double crochet ribbing is approximately 3.5 centimeters long, approximately. So from the length of the sleeve, I want to leave that 3.5 centimeters for the ribbing. So if my sleeve should be on this cardigan 15 centimeters, again, this is the smaller size, I minus 3.5, so it would be about 11.5, 12 centimeters in the pattern, and then the rest of it is the ribbing. You can see right here, 11.5, maybe 12 centimeters with the pattern, and then the rest of it to get to that 15 is the ribbing. Now on the other side, on the other cardigan, I'm gonna do the exact same thing, but I do have 1 extra centimeter in the length right here. So instead of 17.5, I'm gonna count it as 16.5. So 16.5 minus 3.5 would be about 13.5 centimeters in the length with a pattern, and then the rest is the ribbing. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so this is how it looks. And the full length of my sleeve is approximately maybe 17 centimeters right here, and that is absolutely fine. So keep going until you're approximately 3.5 centimeters short of the full length that you need to do. Okay, so at this point my sleeves are approximately 3.5 centimeters away from the full length, and this is what we're going to do next. So we need to do a little bit of decreasing. Now if you have some extra stitch markers, just grab them. You'll probably need 3 or 4. That way it will make it easier, but you can just remember this if you have a good memory. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to mark or remember every second top of the fan. Okay, so this is my first fan. I'm gonna skip that. I'm gonna mark the next one. I'm gonna skip one, mark the next one, and I'm gonna skip one and mark the next one. Okay, so I have 2 in a row here that don't have stitch markers. If you have more fans, you just skip one and mark the next one. And it's the same of whatever sleeve that you're doing. Okay, so the only difference really is that I have 2 double crochets here to start and 1 double crochet right here. Okay, so to start the decreasing, you're gonna chain 1 and you're gonna turn. You want to do the single crochet row looking at the inside of the sleeve. So chain 1, and then you're gonna do a single crochet right underneath the chain 1, and then you're gonna do a single crochet in any of these stitches right here. Okay, it doesn't really matter, so I'm just gonna go right before the first fan. Okay, so I have 2 single crochets. Then I'm gonna single crochet in the top of the fan that is not marked. Then I'm gonna single crochet in between the 2 fans, just one single crochet, and now I have the marked top of the fan. Okay, so what we're gonna do here is we're going to put 2 single crochets in the top, 1 single and 1 more, 2 single crochets, then 1 single in between the fans, 1 single in the top of the fan that is not marked, 1 single crochet in between 2 fans, and then it's a marked fan again, and that is where I put my 2 single crochets, 1 and 2. Then in between the fans 1 single crochet, on top 1 single crochet, in between 1 single crochet, and the marked fan gets 2 single crochets. Then 1 in between, 1 on the top, and we finish with 1 single crochet because we only have 1 double crochet right here, like this, and we slip stitch into the very first stitch right here and chain 1 just for now. Okay, now the other one where you have 2 double crochets, the only real difference is that you're going to chain 1 and turn. Again, you want to be on the inside of the sleeve, single crochet 1, then you have the 2 double crochets, single crochet, single crochet, so you have 3 single crochets before the first fan, then 1 single crochet in top, 1 single crochet in between, then I have my marked fan, that means 2 single crochets in the top, then 1 single crochet in between, 1 on top, 1 in between. Now I ran out of stitch markers, but I know that this one should have 2 single crochets in the top, 1 and 2, 1 in between, 1 on the top, 1 in between, and then 2 on the top, 1 and 2. Again, it works out exactly the same, only we have a few more stitches because this is a bigger size. 1, 1, and then we should finish with 3 single crochets, 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3, and slip stitch into the very first stitch. So you see, slip stitch. Okay, so this is where we're going to start the ribbing. The ribbing is the same, doesn't matter how many stitches you have. Okay, so I'm gonna chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's pretty much exactly the same as we did right here. We're only gonna have 4 single crochets. Now, if you need more length, you can add more chains. If you need it shorter, you can just take a few chains away. I'm gonna skip the very first chain, starting on the second chain, 1 single crochet, 2, 3, and 4. I'm gonna skip that stitch because that's where the chain is coming out of. Slip stitch into the next one and slip stitch into the next one. So 2 slip stitches, exactly the same as we did before. Skip the 2 slip stitches into the back loop, single crochet, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Chain 1, turn, skip that chain 1 into the back loop, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 2 slip stitches. Slip stitch 1 and slip stitch 2. Skip the 2 slip stitches and start again with your back loop single crochets. So this is all you're gonna do all the way around the sleeve. So keep going. I'll see you right here. Okay, so now we want to finish our ribbing right here when we have one full stitch left. Okay, so we need a place to slip stitch somewhere down. Or if you had to use this, you might as well slip stitch in here right under the chain. Okay, so you either have one stitch, or you can have just the stitch from where the chains are coming out of left. Okay, it doesn't really matter, we just need a place to slip stitch once at the bottom. Okay, so I have this stitch, so I'm gonna slip stitch right here, and now I'm gonna slip stitch the sleeve together like this, the ribbing. Now if you prefer sewing, cut your yarn and just sew them together. I find it easier to slip stitch. So what I'm gonna do, I know I had 4 chains right here, so 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 4 stitches on the other side, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm gonna match them and slip stitch them together. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm gonna start at the bottom one. I'm gonna go into that chain that I have made, and now the stitch that I'm going to slip stitch into, I'm gonna go right into the stitch and only catch that first loop. I'm gonna go right like this, and on the inside I'm gonna yarn over, pull, pull, and pull. I'm gonna go into that second chain, into that second stitch, just catching that one loop, yarn over, pull, pull, pull. 2 more, and 1 more. Chain 1 and cut off your yarn. Pull that out, and you have the ribbing on the sleeve made. Now at this point you need to make a second sleeve. I already have both, so I will be able to start on the neckline, but I would like to try and hide some of those tails. So what you want is, when you hide the tails, you want to have both sleeves made and just make sure that they look exactly the same. And right here at the end, we need to make a knot, because it's not really, it doesn't really have a knot right here. So get your needle, and you're gonna go from the back to the front like this, right into that stitch. Pull slow, leave a little loop, then you're gonna go into that loop and pull tight. Now you have a knot, and you can just hide that tail. It's not going to unravel. Like this. Cut, and I can hide this as well. In between the stitches, I'm happy with that. Cut. So I'm gonna do the exact same thing on the sleeve. Now I don't need those stitch markers anymore. I made sure that I have the same amount of rows on both sleeves, and I'm gonna use them for the neckline now. Okay, so get rid of the tails that you don't need. Keep the ones that are in the front and at the bottom right here. For now, we're gonna try to hide them. It's easier to hide them after we have the ribbing done around and we finish with the front right here with the buttonholes. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna start the neckline right now. Grab your 4 stitch markers, and you are going to mark the 3rd loop. So this was the corner loop from both sides, and at the back you want to skip 3, 1, 2, and 3, and mark number 4. okay, in between, and then again 1 2 3, loop number 4 after the one in the front, okay, like this. So we're not gonna go around and do single crochets. We're gonna start the ribbing straight away. So when we will be slip stitching, you want to make 3 slip stitches into each loop, okay? So 1 2 and 3. The third one would be at the bottom, and then 1 2 and 3, 1 2 and 3. Now right here in between these 2 stitch markers on the shoulder, we will have to find 2 places, 2 spots where we are going to skip 1 slip stitch. I will show you that. I'm just trying to explain where that is going to be. So in between the 2 stitch markers, we just want that neckline to be lying like this. So we need to do a little bit of decreasing, and that is what is going to make it kind of lie down like this. Okay, so grab your yarn and a smaller 3mm hook if you have that. Okay, slip knot. Now we're going to connect right into the very front, right here, right before the chain 3, and we are going to chain 4. 1 2 3 and 4. We're gonna have 3 single crochets, so skip 1 1 2 and 3. Now we're gonna make 2 slip stitches. Again, remember I told you we're gonna have 1 2 and 3 slip stitches over each loop. I'm gonna make 1 slip stitch right at the beginning of the loop, 2nd slip stitch right there, and I'm gonna turn. I'm gonna skip the 2 slip stitches and make 3 single crochets into the back loop. 1 2 and 3, chain 1 and turn, skip the chain 1 1 2 and 3. Now again 2 slip stitches. The next one should be in between the 2 loops right here, so slip stitch 1, and then the slip stitch 2 is on the chain 3, 3 single crochets, 1 2 and 3, chain 1 1 2 and 3. So you just need to keep an eye where you are making those slip stitches, okay? So each chain 3 at the top has 1 2 slip stitches, and then the next one is underneath, then 1 2 3, 1 2 3, okay? So 2 slip stitches, 1 right here, and the next one in between. I'm gonna 3 single crochets. I hope that you can see what I'm doing right here. I'm just keeping an eye where I have to put those slip stitches. Okay, so this is the corner. I'm gonna take that out for now. 1 2, turn, and 3 single crochets, 1 2 and 3, 1 2 and 3, chain 1 1 2 and 3. Now because I just surpassed that stitch marker, I want to do my first decrease. Okay, so I should have a slip stitch right in between now, so I'm going to completely skip that. I'm just going to make slip stitch on the top and slip stitch on the top. So this is the decrease. I just skipped 1 place. I will keep going for now as usual, and I want to do another skip kind of before the next stitch marker. So I should have a slip stitch here and a slip stitch right here. So keep going. I will come back when I need to do another skip of a slip stitch. Okay, so I have only one loop left before the stitch marker, and I want to do my next skip right now. So I should slip stitch right here. I'm just gonna skip that, do into the next space, excuse me, and then in between. I just completely skip one place where I would normally do a slip stitch. And continue as normal, excuse me. Stitch marker out, we just marked that space where we should do the 2 decreases. It's on the top of the shoulder, and then the rest of the back is just normal slip stitch, slip stitch, slip stitch all the way until you get here. And again, you're gonna have to skip 2 spaces in between these 2 stitch markers. So keep going, no skipping right here, skipping 2 places in between the stitch markers as we did on this side, and I will meet you at the end when we are finishing right here. Okay, so when you finish your ribbing, you want to finish at the top. Now, I technically would have one more stitch right here, but if I slip stitch, I will finish down here. So I'm gonna leave this one. It's okay. Finish up on the top. And now we're just going to finish the edging in the front and do the buttonholes. Now, technically for boys, you would want your buttonholes to be on this side, which is under your right hand, and for girls on your left hand, underneath your left hand, on the left side. Okay, so we're gonna start from this one, and I'm gonna change back to my 4mm hook. And you're gonna chain 1. Now we're gonna do single crochet, so no more into the back loop right here. So I'm gonna completely skip the first chain and the first stitch that I had here, okay? Like this. So this is the chain that I have just made, and this is the first stitch. I'm gonna go into the second one and make my first single crochet. And then go into the next one and do my second single crochet. Now you want to count your stitches. And then single crochet down the front. Now you don't want to make your single crochets too close to each other. So just one right here. I'm gonna sort of leave small gaps in between. I'm gonna make one right here, then one right here, one here, so just like this, not too close to each other. We don't want that front part to get too long. We actually want to shorten it up a little bit. And then at the bottom I have 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and the last one I want to do as close to the very bottom. 4. Okay, so if you don't need to do the buttonholes, you're just gonna chain 1 and single crochet up. So start into the stitch right underneath the chain 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So you want to continue on this row with single crochets. You should have the same amount of single crochets as you had right here. So you go all the way up. When you finish, you chain 1, turn, and again you go down with single crochets. You're going to have the buttons on this side, and make sure that you remember the number of stitches. Now if you're making the buttonholes on this side, you want to mark out where your buttonholes are going to be. So this is a small one. I'm gonna have 4 buttonholes. You want to place your first stitch marker in the 3rd stitch from the top and the 3rd stitch from the bottom, and then you want to count out as even number of stitches in between the stitch markers as you can. So I have 7 stitches here, 7 stitches here. Now unfortunately I have 8 stitches right here, but that's how it works out. If you end up having one larger gap in between the buttonholes, it's okay. It's only 1 stitch. It won't be as noticeable, but try to keep them pretty much the same in between everywhere if you can. Okay, so for buttonholes, you want to have your buttons next to you just to make sure that the buttonholes are big enough. And then you're gonna chain 1 and turn. This is the row number 2. I have 1 single crochet row made, and I'm going to start my single crochets until I hit my stitch marker. So 1, 2. So my stitch marker is in the next buttonhole. This is stitch that is going to be my buttonhole. I'm gonna chain 2. I'm gonna skip 1 stitch and single crochet into the next stitch. So I skipped 1 stitch. I'm gonna make sure that my button fits nicely through the buttonhole. It's not too loose or not too tight. So see, this is perfect. So I skipped 1 stitch and I made 2 chains on top. Okay, now if you have bigger buttons, what you can do is chain 2 and skip 2 stitches. Just remember how many stitches you skipped. That way your buttonhole is going to be a little bit bigger, but this one works absolutely fine for me. Then continue on with single crochets until you get to your next buttonhole or your next stitch marker. And I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm going to chain 2, I'm going to skip 1 stitch and single crochet, and like this all the way to the top. And my last stitch. Now the 3rd row is the last one. We're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch. When we get to that chain, okay, so I have chain 2, but I have skipped only 1 stitch. I'm just gonna make 1 single crochet right here. So I want to have the same amount of stitches at the end as well. Okay, now if you skip 2 stitches here and chain 2 on top, you make 2 single crochets in there. So I skipped 1, I have 1 single crochet, and then I continue on with the stitches. Okay, only 1 single crochet because I only skipped 1 stitch, and then continue on down. Just 1 single crochet, and I have 2 stitches left. Now I personally prefer to finish with a slip stitch instead of a single crochet in the very last one. That way you don't, it's kind of this part does not end up being long. It kind of shortens up, but it's completely up to you. If you feel that you want a single crochet here and chain one and cut your yarn, perfectly fine. I just prefer slip stitching. Then it is nice and tight at the bottom right here. I'm going to do the same on the other side. Then I'm going to chain one and cut my yarn. I take that out, and here I have buttonholes. Now this is for the kind of boys side for the buttons, and now we're gonna do the other side. I just want to finish this one first. Now I finished this, so no buttonholes right here, but if you look, when I place the bottom straight, the top part becomes smaller than the back, and this was supposed to happen like that. That's why I was kind of putting my stitches a little bit further apart. That pulls the front part down and the back is higher than the front. That just makes the cardigan look nicer, and it keeps this front from being very, very close to baby's face. So just like that. You can see this is lower about 3 centimeters, approximately there. So don't worry about that. That is supposed to happen. Now the other side, I'm gonna have buttonholes on this one and no buttonholes on this one, obviously because I have buttonholes on the other side. So we want to start the other side at the bottom right here, and we want to match the number of single crochets that we had on the other side. This is quite important. Now technically, if you have one extra or one less stitch, it doesn't make a big difference, but you want to be able to be very, very close with the number or the exact number as the other side, just for those, just to have the same length on both sides. Okay, I'm gonna chain one and start my single crochets, and I'm gonna count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and again I'm gonna be generous with spaces. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and so on. Keep counting until you get to the top. So I'm coming up. I have a little space left. I have made 30 single crochets. I had 33 on the other one, and I'm just gonna make the last 3 to match the same number. Now if you end up right here and the numbers are really not matching, you're probably gonna have to take it out a little bit so you don't make too many or too little stitches right here at the top, because then the rows will be really uneven and you will be able to see. So rather take a little bit out and start making them further apart or closer together, depending on how many you have, too many or too little missing right here. Okay, just try to adjust further away rather than everything in that last space. But I'm okay. I only need 3 stitches here. So 1, 2, and 3, and so I have 33 stitches. Now I'm gonna get my stitch markers because I need my buttonholes on this side, and I'm gonna have 5 buttonholes this time, and I'm technically going to do the same thing as I have done on the other cardigan. I'm just gonna mark my stitch number 3 from the bottom and stitch number 3 from the top, and then I'm just gonna work out how many stitches I need to leave in between my other buttons. Okay, so this time I only have 6 stitches in between because I have more stitch markers, and it's exactly the same as on the other side. So you're gonna chain 1 and turn, and you're gonna single crochet all the way down if you don't need the buttonholes. If you need the buttonholes, you're gonna chain, let's say 2, skip 1 stitch, single crochet in between. Again, I'm gonna just check that my buttons are or my buttonhole is big enough or not too big for the buttons. Absolutely perfect. And keep going. Keep going until you finish this row. At the bottom, chain 1 and start single crocheting all the way up, and you should have the same number of single crochets as you had in the first row that you have made. And we will finish this together. And my last stitch, again, I'm gonna just slip stitch into the last stitch instead of single crochet, just to keep that top corner nice and neat. Chain 1 and cut my yarn. So all I have left to do is to sew in my buttons and hide my tails. Take these out. So I'm not going to show you how to sew the buttons. I'm pretty sure that everybody knows and have their own way of doing that. The only kind of advice that I could give you, this is how I do it, just to make sure that those buttons are matching really nice and you don't like have one, let's say, bottom part longer than the other, is when I sew my buttons, I always match the top first, just to make sure that it's absolutely matching correctly. Then I put in my needle through the buttonhole, so there's a buttonhole there. I go right into the middle of that, and wherever my needle is, I'm gonna sew in a button in that exact place. So first I do the top button, then I match the bottom, just exactly the same, just completely straight. Again, I put in my needle, and where my needle is, I sew in my bottom button. Then I'm close those two buttons, and I just match out where my other buttons need to be sewn in. It's just that way you have the top and the bottom absolutely matching perfectly, and then you just do the other buttons. And there's still a few tails, so hide those, and I will see you when I finish my cardigans. Okay, and so I'm finished. I have both of my cardigans done. This is the smaller one, and the bigger one. I hope that you have enjoyed the video and everything was clear to you. This is it for this one, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!